Hello, dear friends. Here we are. One more opportunity for all of us to be here together. Yes, we're here 10 days, 10 exercises on peacemaking skills. And people often ask, why do we need it, Vanessa? If everything is already there. Actually, it is, but we need to be fully aware of the goal because as Kardec asked the spirits, and it's published in the first chapter of the third part of the Spirit's book, when he asked, about the laws, the divine laws of life, the spirits said, we need to know the details to really learn, be compliant, and follow through. Okay, so you who are entering here, and forgive me if by any chance I'm not seeing you yet, okay, just stay there because today we're going to talk about reconciling with our enemies. You may be saying, and it's valid, Vanessa, I don't have enemies. Good for you. And that's good for you. But you know who doesn't? Maybe the enemy is within ourselves. And to help us go through the process, breaking down this understanding, because she has been studying it and leading a group in the north east of the United States in New Jersey. Debora Beldovex. Am I right the way I'm saying,
Yeah,
Deborah?
you got it. You got it.
All right. So here she is. Deborah is here with us. She is the president, founder, with a group of friends. They founded the um, Good Harvest Fraternal Group. Deborah, would you like to kindly share the website, please?
Yes. First of all, good evening to everyone watching. It's my pleasure to be here. So happy to be here with Vanessa. And Good Harvest Fraternal Group was a group that started in 2012 in December. We're very humble and welcoming to all. We have the Portuguese and the English sectors, and you can always go to Good Harvest Fraternal Group. If you do it, just a search on Google, it'll bring us to our website because the website itself is in Portuguese, the title, Grupo Fraterno Seara do Bem. So if you do the search in English, just Google Good Harvest Fraternal Group, Newark, it'll bring you to the website.
Thank you, Deborah. And today, Deborah, it's Memorial Day in the United States of America, a day that is very, very important for the nation because it's a day we dedicate to the memory and prayers to all those who participated in the many wars, who have fallen to protect the country. And it's a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence because the good spirits know. We're going to talk about reconciliation with our enemies. We are working here with the discarnates and the incarnates, and we are dedicating to the very first 6 items of chapter 10, Blessed are the merciful, in the gospel according to Spiritism. It's very important for us to understand why it is vital to reconcile. And oftentimes, Deborah, the enemy is not outside, but inside of us, right?
Absolutely. We know that the biggest monsters are always in the closet, and the biggest monsters are always in our heads, in ourselves. We just project those monsters onto each other. So it's very important to know that. I think when we get angry, and anger is certainly one of the first causes of not forgiving because you're angry. And we only get angry, and I'll tell you, Vanessa, why you get angry, and I'll tell everyone who's watching why they get angry. I'm not the one saying that, but studious scholars will say that. We get angry because things didn't go our way. And basically, that's the bottom line. And that's why we get angry. And we always project that we are right and the other person is wrong. Not always, but that's most of the time why we can't forgive, because we assume that there is a reason for us to be doing what we're doing, and the reason is honorable and it's the right reason. And whoever goes against that reason, we get angry at them, and we find it hard to forgive. So for sure, we forgive not because the other deserves it. Not all the time people deserve forgiveness. People do deserve forgiveness, not their actions. And I think that's a good start for, the gospel teaching us to forgive people, not their actions. And once we know that, it's a good start for us to look at someone who did us wrong, let's put it that way, in our opinion, and for us to say, I don't forgive your action. I don't condone your action, but I do forgive you as a person, because you are human, you make errors. And in all reality, nobody wakes up saying, I'm going to do the wrong thing. We see Memorial Day, we see wars, we see people who died for doing what they believe. They don't go to war, or they don't do anything saying, I'm doing the wrong thing today. I'm going to wake up and do something to cause unforgiveness. We don't do that.
And that's interesting you're mentioning this. For those who are here with us, this is 10 exercises on peacemaking skills. And before we go on, we would like to say hi to our beautiful community who has been with us. And this is just to make sure that we feel this closeness. We're humans and we need to feel the human touch. It's vital for all of us. So we have here with us Jailton. Thank you, Jailton, for being here. Happy Memorial Day in a way, right? And I say in a way, Jailton, because Memorial Day is not a very happy day in the reality of the matter, but it's a day for us to really think about the value of life. Andrea Torres, thank you for being with us. Leo Vieira, how are you? Leia Severo, thank you for being with us, Leia. Thank you for helping us. Aline, thank you, Aline. Rihanna, I know, Rihanna, you started a group yesterday, am I right, in South Africa? And we were very happy for you and for the group. Rita Di Cassia, how are you? Adilson, Miriam, how are you, Miriam? And we have Rita Di Cassia, Ceisa, and Ceisa, we've been missing you, but I know you are around. Karina, Nina, Ana Mércia, and Rudy, of course. Present, present, present. And you are our present, Rudy. So, Deborah and I are discussing this reconciliation, but it's not only a discussion. We're building a foundation for us to bridge this theory, this command, the law of God that we need to comply with our action. So, to make us feel ever more attuned in the gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 10, blessed are the merciful. Forgive so that God will forgive you. Mercy, writes Kardec, is the complement of meekness, because whoever is not merciful cannot be meek and peaceable. Mercy consists in forgetting and forgiving offenses. Hatred and rancor denote a soul that is neither advanced nor great. Forgetting offenses is proper to the advanced soul, which is above the insults that might be directed at it. One is always anxious, darkly suspicious, and full of bile. The other is calm, full of gentleness and charity. So, This one paragraph, there is more, but the one paragraph, Deborah, is very innovative for us because it says that in order for us to be really peaceful and a peacemaker, we need to be merciful. And mercy is about forgetting and forgiving. And I remember, Deborah, when I used to ask myself as a neuroscientist, how are we going to forget things? But recently, a study by neuroscience showed that it's possible to forget bad memories, traumas, with one condition. If we create new memories that are far distant from those scenarios, meaning creating new habits.
Mhm.
Isn't that fascinating, Deborah?
Absolutely. We see that Sir Isaac Newton, I love to go back to the basics. Let's go back to physics. And that's what Kardec is all about. He's, all the science that's in our gospel, in our doctrine. But Isaac Newton would say that in one of his laws of physics that two objects can't occupy the same space at the same time. I like to go a little further and say that goes the same for emotions. We can't carry two emotions at the same time at the same place. So if you want to be peaceful, it's impossible for you to have peace and turmoil at the same time. You can't have love and hate for someone at the same time. And we know that one is really a progress to the other. So if you see turmoil, you can transform it. And that's the whole topic of this study that you're doing. Well, I have so much turmoil. I have so much unforgiveness for people that have caused me pain. I don't think I can ever forgive, much less forget. But if you take it piece by piece and you understand that it is a process and you can't have this peace that you look for, that you really long for, and that we have that perfect picture of just bliss if you don't forgive, because it doesn't fit inside of us. So once we start this process, we can finally achieve that peace. And it's very easily indeed to forget. Some people say, well, if you forget, that's Alzheimer's or that's a sign of a mental illness, or not really, because we can pull memories from our past, especially through hypnosis. We do that all the time and we forgot. Mm-hmm. So it's very practical. People say, oh, horrible things happened and I didn't even know because it was in my subconscious. But the same goes for things that you wish to forget. So it is a conscious decision to forget, not just, but before you forget, you need to forgive. There is no forgetting something unless you decide and you make a conscious choice to say, I'm going to forgive, because I can't have peace and turmoil occupying the same space in my heart and my mind. So once you make that decision, you can really let go. You can really let go, and it will be forgotten. If you remember that fact of someone, a mother, sometimes we live with things that we heard when we were children, and we blame our parents the way we are now, and we say, well, if my mother hadn't treated me that way, or if my husband hadn't said that to me that day, or we always project the problem onto what people did to us. And we need to take control again to say, I'm going to be in control. You're not going to control me anymore. That thought is not going to control me anymore. The only way I can do this is following Christ's advice to forgive, to cut that chain that's still uniting you to that thought. And then the thought will go away. You just replace it with blissfulness. And that's a choice. That's a conscious choice.
That's beautiful you're saying, this conscious choice. So let us do this exercise with everyone who is here. If you're watching this on demand, the value is the same. It's worth the same. So first we breathe in and out. And it's like a computer. God is so merciful that he doesn't complicate anything. The healing is a conscious choice. That's where it begins, as Deborah is reminding us. So we breathe in and out. We look at the person in our mental field. Let's say it's ourselves, because I've done something that I'm having a hard time dealing with. I need to face myself. And we would recommend put your hand in your heart chakra and breathe in and out and say, I forgive you. Looking in the mirror. If you're not looking in the mirror to see you, then visualize yourself and say to yourself, I forgive you. You did not know what you were doing. This is a Christ conscious affirmation we can use for ourselves and for others. I forgive you. If it's somebody else, I forgive you, for you did not know what you were doing. People often, Deborah, it reminds me of a passage from the book Good News by Humberto de Campos through Chico Xavier. When we were reminded about the fact that people more often are fragile. They are more fragile than evil. People don't make, for example, I'll say a dramatic event because it's one of the worst cases that are happening in the world, suicide bombers. Often people think that the suicide bomber is going there because he feels the pleasure of killing himself and killing people. No. Often it's about somebody who is not only consumed by hatred, but also consumed with hopelessness. And he or she says, I better die doing this than actually live this miserable life. And many of them think they are on a true divine call to do it, mistakenly, just like Judas. So today, Deborah, like an hour ago, when we came back from the center, I saw a short clip that was produced by the Muslim community showing this love for the suicide bomber. They are spreading out this video showing a suicide bomber being loved and accepted by the crowd, being forgiven by the crowd, and they are trying to spread this video to tell people who are volunteering for these heinous tasks that they don't need to go there, that there are people who love them and they will forgive them, but they don't need to go to that extreme. And that's what we're talking about, practicing the Christ conscious affirmation. I forgive you, for you did not know what you were doing, either for ourselves or for others. Deborah, Jailton has a question here. You mentioned briefly about this, but there are cases in which, as he says, people have a love and hate relationship with a specific person. How is that ever possible from a spiritist perspective? What can we tell?
Well, from a scientific view, we know that we can't occupy two objects in the same space. From a psychological view, that transpires into emotions. So you even said, Jailton even said that he has a love-hate. He doesn't have both together. So he has periods where he loves and periods where he hates. I think as far as Spiritism goes, we know that we have, first of all, we're never alone. And we are always being bombarded by good or whatever we leave ourselves open to. It doesn't take much for us to plug in to this reception of other spirits as well that will be keen to our thoughts. So what we have to work, I would tell him, we don't have to worry so much in controlling what we feel. First of all, hate is not the opposite of love. Indifference is. So when people say to me, I hate someone, it's actually not a bad thing. It's just how Chico Xavier would said, he would say in the past, hate is just when love got ill. It's just love that got a little bit ill. So be happy because you do have the love. And don't see hate as hate. It isn't. It's indifference. Indifference is the point where we never want to get. We don't want to look at people and children that are starving in the world, suicide bombers, people that are being discriminated against and say, that doesn't affect me. That is something that's out there and I don't need to deal with that. I have people close to me. That is indifference. That is actually the opposite of love. So if you have that love-hate relationship, it's the choice you will have. Again, the conscious choice, as Vanessa says, we can train our brain and we can, it's very plastic, our brain, and it's fluid. It can go wherever you want it to go. I know it seems hard. Sometimes we say, but this person can get this out of me and I can get so aggravated and sometimes I can't forgive what they tell me. And then I come to terms and I forgive them. And one thing to remember, I think, is that nobody can get anything out of us. We only see in them what we have inside. So when you see someone who aggravates you, who gets the worst out of you, look inside of that person and see what it is that they have that you have in yourself. You can only identify it if you have it. So that is when you stop and you say, I don't want that inside of me anymore. And that's when Spiritism comes and gives you it gives you the recipe of what to do. Don't worry about changing the other. Change yourselves. Don't worry about, sometimes in my office, a client would come in and say, Debbie, I'll give you whatever it is for you to change my wife's brain, to change the way she thinks. I've had that proposition. It's very tempting, And it's easy. I say, oh, sure, I'll take that, no problem. But I don't have to charge you more. I'll tell you what. And I say, if you want to change the other, and if you want to change your behavior towards the other, change it towards yourself. Because once you change, everything around you changes. And all the spiritual influence will also change. And that is what Kardec says, even in this chapter, when he says, to forgive. I'm sure Vanessa will get to that. To forgive those while you're still walking with them. And I'm sure we're going to get to that. But remember, we don't have to put so much pressure in ourselves. Sometimes, and we put so much pressure in saying, oh, my ex, I hate my ex, or I hate this person, they did a horrible thing. Again, we don't have to agree with what they did. You don't have to agree in liking even someone's actions at all. People sometimes need to break up. Marriages, I hate to say it, but sometimes it's necessary. And sometimes we say, oh, I have this duty to stay married to this person for the next incarnation. Otherwise, I'll come back with the same. And that's fear. That's the dogmas of past teachings telling you to act based on fear. And Jesus comes and says, fear not. I am a father of peace. I'm here to bring you certainty. Don't worry about it. Just let each day have its own turmoil. Don't worry about tomorrow. So sometimes you don't need to forgive an abusive husband. I'm sorry, you have to forgive, but you don't need to live with him. And that's the big difference. Sometimes you have to evaluate your relationship and say, hey, I have a love-hate relationship. If the hate part is taken over, maybe I have to evaluate and say, maybe I'm not being loving to myself. As Vanessa said in the beginning, the first thing we have is to really clean those monsters in our closet, in our mental closet. And then, hey, maybe you see the person with different eyes, but forgiving eyes. And I'm not saying forgiving is good because they deserve it, but because it's good for you, because it cleanses you.
Yes, you're right. And thank you also, Clara, for reinforcing it. Clara Simões, when you change yourself, everything around you changes as well. It's such a miracle. It's love working its way through arts. Exactly. And let's say hi to Caroline. Caroline, thank you for joining us. Olivia, Katia, how are you, Katia? Dear Angelita, Lisa Teles, Renata Bergfeld, how are you? Our dear Thomas is older now. By the way, I mentioned Angelita. Lea Severo also is working on this. The Fraternity Without Borders is working on selling t-shirts with the English titled Fraternity Without Borders. So contact Lea Severo, contact Angelita. So if you want to buy the t-shirts for your center and help the children, not only in Africa, in Brazil, Madagascar, I mean, many places in Africa, of course, and you can help these children that are going through lots and lots of problems, okay? So, friends, we are here to talk about one of the frontiers of human progress. We cannot progress if we don't learn to be merciful. To be at peace. Who likes peace? Me. Who wants to be at peace? Me. But have you forgiven yourself? Not quite. I often, Vanessa, think I am a silly, dumb, idiot person. If we were not merciful with ourselves, we won't get there. What about people? Oh, but people are so stupid, Vanessa. I can't forgive them, and they are cruel, abusive, etc. Okay, hold on. Breathe in and out first, and remember, who are we? How can I cast a stone? Reconciliation is vital. Tonight at the Spirit Center in Virginia, Mentor Joseph was mentioning to us that if we want to be in the will of harmony, which is the will of God, the life in itself, we needed to be constantly working for the good. And that work for the good includes reconciliation. Because when we create this crystallization, which is hatred, it's the love that is stagnated. It smells bad. It creates a clog in our system, the flow of love. We are no longer operating in the harmony, in the will of life. So we really need to work on it. How do we do it? Affirmations, like the one we were mentioning. And of course, run towards the goal of achieving peace. And as Deborah was already pointing to the direction, next is about reconciling with those we have a hard time. We need to reconcile. When? Next life? No. This life. Because next life is going to be much harder. Way harder. And this is when we read quickly here. Item 5, chapter 10, the Gospel according to Spiritism. Quoting from Matthew chapter 5, verses 25 to 26. Be reconciled as quickly as possible with your adversary while you are with him on the way, so that he does not hand you over to the judge, and so that the judge does not hand you over to the minister of justice, so that you may not be imprisoned. Verily I say to you that you will not leave there as long as you have not paid the last penny or coin, in other words. It's interesting because as we are reading this, it reminds us of the mess in the politics everywhere. One that is, oh my gosh, everybody's pointing fingers. That's pretty much what happens to us. My discarnate obsessor looks at me and said, "Oh, really? You're not going to forgive them because they stole you a pen? But you don't remember, but you stole a whole house from me in a previous life." Well, we don't recall it. And that's how the vibrational attunement happens. I am vibrating unforgiveness, lack of mercy, and I am attracting lack of mercy. Attraction. Right, Deborah? We want to explore more about this vibratory tone of lack of mercifulness, of mercy, and how we attract like-minded entities, whether incarnated or discarnated, correct?
Absolutely. We can look in our lives, and it's a good opportunity not to beat ourselves up, but to see what responsibility do we carry for what is happening to us. Now that it could be very deep because we don't want to get out of that comfort zone and see whatever happens to me, whatever companies I have, whatever it is in my life now, I have responsibility for having that as well. And at the same time that maybe you want to run away after you hear that, if you choose to make that work for you, this information work for you, it has everything to do what we're talking about. We look, if each one of the people that are watching this, if you look at your Facebook postings and you pay attention to what you put out there, and Vanessa said about the turmoil with politics,
Yes.
it doesn't matter what you are. For me, I'm first a Christian, you know? So if you are a Christian spiritist, same thing. You have to wonder what it is that I'm putting out there. Would Christ do that? If Jesus had Facebook, what would be on his Facebook? So being a Christian is to be Christ-like. And that's the spiritism that came to teach us how to do that in the language that's much clearer for us to understand. So we can't now say, oh, I didn't know. We know now. So if you look at your Facebook, not now because we want you here, but if after the program is over, you look at your Facebook, your last 10, 20 posts, and see what's out there, what you're putting out to the world. Is there arguments about politics? Are you calling this candidate, that candidate? Are you putting out all this turmoil? Remember, they didn't cause the turmoil inside of you. You are taking the turmoil that exists in you and you're projecting that towards them. So once you start cleaning, sometimes change happens from the outside to the inside. We always learn it starts from the inside, but sometimes it's so tough to work on the inside that we need to start from the outside. So let's take Facebook, for example, or any kind of social media. Clean it up. Clean it up. Let's start taking all those things that we weren't merciful because we don't know how people act. They act the best that they can act. Once we look through those eyes and we say, this person gave the best that they could. They're doing the best that they can. Their best may be terrible in our standards, but that's the best they can. And that's the only comprehension that we need to be to forgive. When Christ said his last 6 hours, his last 3 hours on the cross, and when he said, forgive them, for they not know what they do, he had perfect comprehension of our evolutionary status at that moment. So he knew that the people there knew no better. And love is only, hate is really the absence of knowledge. It's ignorance. There is no such thing as evil. It's just the absence of love. So once this ignorance goes away and we learn, and we can only learn through studying, and we study and we act on our studies, then we become wealthy in knowledge. We become wealthy in actions. And that's the only antidote to any kind of hate, any kind of unmerciful actions. So let's start with Facebook. Clean it up. Look at your cell phone. What are the last 5 calls that you made? Did you make a call to yell, to bring, to gossip, to what is it? What were the last 5 calls that you made? Was it to take advantage of someone? Or was it to give? How many calls that we make to just offer something, offer a peaceful word? So remember when, the Lord's Prayer says, we recite it and we don't pay attention to what it says, but we are praying to God and we're saying to him, forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespasses against us. So remember that as. So we're praying something and asking God to forgive us because we know that we do wrong. We know that we're ignorant still. We're still on the classes of spirits that are closer to the bottom than to the top. And that's not for us to feel bad. It's just for us to feel human. For us to feel that we're going to make mistakes. I always promise people, the only thing I can promise you is that I'm going to make mistakes. But I'm not going to make a mistake knowingly and willingly. It's full of willness to hurt you. I will hurt you, but not because I'm conscious of that. And I ask you for forgiveness when I do it. So when we ask the Lord to forgive us, then we have to also be merciful to others. So when the spirits, I think someone asked, how to be merciful, how to reconcile with spirits, with these incarnates that are out there and might be vengeful towards us because of something we did in our past life. Well, we can pray for those that we don't know. We can always pray for our enemies. We can say it out loud. Forgive those who surround me. Forgive me. I didn't know what I was doing. And if I did, I ask you for forgiveness. We can say that sometimes it needs to be said out loud, So it's nice to pray with our voice. And that's an exercise together with the breathing exercise, with the emission of good vibration towards us. Because it shocks us when someone doesn't retaliate when we do something wrong. Doesn't that shock us? Sometimes we expect someone to yell at us because oh my goodness, I did that, I'm going to get yelled at. And the other person doesn't. And that kind of throws us off. Well, the same goes for the spirits. They're just us. They're just in a different plane. And it doesn't mean they're in a plane that's far away. They're right next to us many times. So once we tell them, forgive me, I'm not conscious of what I did, but I truly ask humbly for forgiveness for whatever it is that I've done in the past. So that is a beautiful pathway already to do that. Do this to incarnates and to discarnates as well.
Exactly. And this already answers Rudy's question, how to reconcile with the discarnates. We would just add, you can read the book Obsession by Manuel Filomeno de Miranda through Divaldo Franco, because that book tells us about how this is operating in the spiritual realm. It takes a team. But don't forget, Divaldo Franco himself, as a Brazilian spiritist medium, renowned, just turned 90 years of age. He, for 30 years, had an obsessor who was constantly creating embarrassments and problems for him. 30 years, and Divaldo was already a spiritist. He already had the foundation, the mission of the way. He was already working hard to help other people, and the spirits would not give him a break, would create the worst scenarios for him. One day, Divaldo persisted. 30 years, my friend. One day, Divaldo Franco says, somebody knocked at the door of the Mission of the Way. And it was a lady who had a baby in her arms, and she said, I cannot take care of this child, but I would like you to do so. And he reminded himself that the foundation had no more space for another child. They had orphans at the time, and there was no more space. But how can you, in the Christian way, says Debora, ever turn down the need of a human being. So he said, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll. And he held the baby in his arms. At that moment, the spirit that he nicknamed Iron Mask, Divaldo nicknamed him because he was really cold. And he said, do you love this child? And Divaldo said, no, not yet, but I will. And Divaldo said it with so much sincerity, holding that baby who apparently was unknown to him, that he turned to the spirit and he saw that the spirit surrendered himself and said, Divaldo, now I can say, you are a new man. You're changed. That spirit that you're volunteering to take care of was my mother in a previous life. Friends, the good that we do to others here on earth can conquer the reconciliation with other friends or old friends that we spoil their love in the beyond that discarnates. So here is a motivation for us. Let's do our best right now. And Leia Severo is reminding us it's 40 years. It's even worse. Thank you, Leia. It's 40 years. It's even worse. 40 years. And he was granted the reconciliation. So, as Andrea Torres is saying, it's a very moving story. So now, Deborah, as we are talking about exercises, you said quite a few of them from Facebook, any social media that we use, and the opportunity for us to pick up the phone today, tomorrow, whenever you want, but the sooner the better. Like Mentor Joseph told me once, years ago, he said, Vanessa, right now you're going to call X person. I said, right now? Right now you're going to call the person whom this, that, and the other. And I said, but he said, no, go right now. I'm telling you, it's important that you fulfill it. It's timely. And then I called the person. The person wasn't there. I left a message. I said, you see, it didn't work. 5 minutes later, the person calls me back and I'm like, And he looks at me like smiling and say, pick up. And then I start talking to the person and he was right. Fear, as Deborah said, is often the impediment. Fear of being you, of shining the light. I'll tell you the truth, Deborah, and you probably go through the same. And many of us, if not all of us here, in different aspects of our lives, when you start doing the good and the right thing, whether reconciling or whatever it is, some people often look at you like, why are you doing this? Because it's the right thing to do. And many people don't do it because they are afraid. Right, Deborah? You want to elaborate more? Yeah.
Sure. And sometimes we'll be called weak for not, for turning the other face, for turning the other side. We'll be called stupid. We'll be called all kinds of names for doing the right thing. Who are you here to show for? Is it between you and God, or is it between you and other like humans? One thing we do all the time, we call ourselves names. We do something and we say, I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? Oh, I'm terrible. Oh my goodness, I'm so ugly. No one's gonna. We call ourselves so many terrible names. We can stop that today. We can decide again to say, from now on, I don't call myself anything negative. That is a step for forgiveness to yourselves. We make mistakes, period. It's going to happen, friends. It's a process to learning. You know, you can learn through love or you can learn through mistakes. And most of us are still in this earth, you know, earth is still a trial phase. It's a lot of tests that we have to pass. Sometimes we don't pass the first time, but God is so merciful that he gives us as many tests as we need for the same lesson. So once we pass that lesson, we progress to the next one. And it's going to be harder because our tests don't get easier. So once we know that, and once we stop calling ourselves, diminishing ourselves, because we're all children of God. And once you stop calling yourself, when you have that right on the tip of your tongue to say, oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? Don't do it. Don't say it. Start by not saying it. And then don't say it to the other. You know, don't call people names. Don't call, you know, this person, this president, this deputy, this whatever it is. Don't call it. Keep it. That will be the beginning of knowing what Jesus said in the cross. Forgive them, for they not know what they do. So once we comprehend that people are doing the best that they know, then we don't need to even forgive because we don't feel offended. You see, Gandhi went through that phase, and one of the reporters asked him, Gandhi, what? You know, they've thrown him off the train. You guys remember he was a lawyer, and he went in a train that he wasn't supposed to be in that class because he was considered a third class citizen. And they threw him off the train, and he had a ticket and all of that. But that was on his way to, you know, to India, you know, from England. But a reporter asked him at the end of his life, what are what are you mad at? What really got to you? You know, what are the things you need to forgive? And he said, I don't need to forgive anybody. And the reporter said, what do you mean you don't? And he says, I don't forgive anyone. And the reporter again, what do you mean, Gandhi? You don't forgive? And he says, no, because in reality, I don't get offended anymore. So that to me shows the progress of the soul, to say, I don't need to forgive because I have complete understanding that this person is doing the best they can. So I'm not going to be touched on my pride with the need to even forgive. So until we get to that, what we can do is don't be fearful. Fear is a byproduct of really pain, of ignorance, of not knowing. So once you know, you're no longer fearful. Because if I tell you that dog bites, you won't be fearful of the dog anymore. You're going to be cautious because you know that he bites. But you won't fear the dog anymore. And we see on the opposite aspect, we see a dog on the street that you might want to help, and this dog might be malnourished or maybe hit by a car even, and you try to help him. What is he going to do? He's going to try to bite you because he's fearful. He doesn't know your intentions. He doesn't know what you're there to do, that you're there to help. So he might be hurt himself, but he's going to bark and he's going to make all that noise and run away. And you have to go with mittens to try to caress him, and little by little. And then he's no longer fearful of you. And then you warn him. Now he trusts you. Now he knows that you're not there to do any evil to him. So we're the same way. People are fearful. A lot of times they attack because they're fearful, and they don't know what you're there to do to them. A lot of these suicide bombers, again, we see that these people, they call a lot of people loneliness, they're lonely and this and that. It's not about being lonely. The people that usually do horrible things are the incompetent joiners, people that want to be part of something, even good. Most of the times, yes, good. And they just don't have the competence to do it. They don't have the acceptance in that group. And then they find a group. They find something that is open to whatever. And that's why they join that. So they're doing it because that's the best they know. That's the only group they could join in their own beliefs, you know? So let go of your fears with the certainty that you're going to be better every day. Every day your life will be better. The lessons might be harder. That's the thing. Once we know that the lessons might be harder, so it gives the appearance of maybe chaos or, you know, but we're always progressing. And with forgiveness, I can guarantee this, the burden will be much less. much less, for sure.
Yes, that's beautiful. And as Deborah is saying, I know Rita DiCasio is saying sometimes it's very difficult to call someone that hurts as much. And of course, there's always a good time, you know. It's like if a lion is really angry, you don't go there, hey, lion, we want to be friends. You wait, take time, but then we can start in our minds visualizing it. Remember, seeking the good always and feeling the good, visualizing the good to mold the good. And this is, we're very grateful to, I know Fátima is here, Andrei Moreira was here, Cláudia Mesquita. Thank you, Cláudia, for being here. Yes, and I have something here from Rita Di Cássia. She was mentioning about Monja Coen, saying that there is more love than hatred in the world, and we should help and visualize this good side, loving more to be loved. And you're right. That's why, in order to reconcile, we need first to start in the mind, in the feelings, and then actions and words will follow through. So if you are planning to reconcile with anyone, including yourself, visualize yourself reconciled. Visualize yourself looking at yourself in the mirror and feeling whole, complete, like nothing. Look at yourself like a tree. Look at the tree. The tree is not a human spirit, but there is an intelligent principle connected to that tree. And it's whole, complete. It doesn't lack anything, just like us. No matter where we are in our evolution, as Deborah said, we are complete. We don't lack anything. We come, Deborah mentioned something a while ago, for many reincarnations. With this, we were incited to be afraid and to feel we're less, so people could manipulate us. But no longer. Since Spiritism, we are given the totality of ourselves. We're complete. We are progressing spirits. Look at yourself in the mirror and don't see the lack, see the whole, see the completeness. And as Monja Coen is saying, we are run, not on dunking. We are run on God's love. It's God's love that runs through us. And Monja Coen is right. There must be more love than hatred because here we are living. Right? So in this last part of let me just give Renata here the word as well. She's mentioning to us, I love the rationale for giving ourselves to learn how to look at the mirror and say, I love myself. Once we can really do that, we can much better love our brothers and sisters, forgive ourselves, and everyone turn the other face. Don't judge. Yes, easily said than done, but that's why we have the light of Spiritism, Christianity in each other. But the other thing is this. We need to do this today, friends. Today is Memorial Day, so memorize this day. We need to do this now. Don't leave it for tomorrow. Don't leave. If you have an email, send a person an email. If you have their WhatsApp, send them a message. If you have their phone, call them. If you have their Facebook Messenger, send them a message. Text them and say, I've been thinking of you and I would love to be in touch with you. Let us pick up where we left off. We're not saying this in romantic ways. We're just saying we need to look at each other as children of God. No matter the hat we are using, husband, wife, brother, sister, whatever it is, colleagues, employee, boss, whatever it is, it's child of God to child of God, immortal spirit to immortal spirit. Look at the person as if you were discarnated and think, if you were discarnated today, what would you have done? As they say, go first to be reconciled with your brother before presenting your offer at the altar of God. Oh, God, I love you. But if we love God, we love the creation of God. We need to appreciate it. We need to cherish the divine in everyone. That's why people often say, right, Deborah, that expression, namaste, namaste, right?
Yes. And it's, the divine that exists in me greets and acknowledges the divine that also exists in you. And it's a beautiful thing to know that if you see someone doing the wrong thing according to you, they're still your brother and sister. They're still part of your family because we have blood relatives, but that's just temporal. That's just a space of time that you're their blood relatives. In the grand scheme of things, we're all brothers and sisters. That's why Jesus said, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? And he meant to say, you all are. Those who follow me. And we all will. There's no hurry for us to impose anything on anyone. There's no need to impose our views, our thoughts, but we can impose our love. We can just bombard them with love and forgiveness. And that's the only thing that's irresistible. Because remember, there's no such thing as evil. It's just this empty vacuum that love is not there. So once we fill in this vacuum, then it's impossible to resist. I think that today with Memorial Day, again, as final words, there is always the little sign that people put in the memorials and the tombstones, rest in peace. But we can make a decision to live in peace. We don't have to wait until it's after for us to understand that nothing really will change. There's no such thing as we're going to become saints that will be in this blissful place where we have no need to forgive. We're still going to have the need to forgive. So do you want to be obsessor free? Do you want to be living in peace? Then you have to have peaceful actions. It's impossible to just reflect, to just wish on it. You have to act on it. So act by looking in the mirror, acting by projecting the peace that you want to live in, act by erasing all your Facebook turmoil, because there's only bad news because we watch bad news. There's only bad news because we put bad news out there. And I'm not saying to be ignorant on what's happening around the world. That's not the point. It's just to be merciful.
Mm-hmm.
Know that people they're all our brothers and sisters, and we're all going to the same place. It'll make life a lot easier for all of us, for sure.
Yes, it's a tough topic, but it's needed. And as Rita Di Cassi is saying, reinforcing here what Deborah is encouraging us to take action on. Andre Luis mentions, we don't know when we are going to have the second chance. That opportunity may be in 1,000 years. Don't wait right now. Deborah, since this is about peacemaking, we're going to end with the Peace for Peace song. Feel free to sing. If Adilson is there and you can, Adilson, put the lyrics for everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you, Deborah, for being with us. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. But stay there. Let's listen, be inspired, because it all begins with us.
Thank you.
Peace in the world begins with me. When I choose love inside, I'm truly happy. When we are kind one another, we know true love and greatness in our heart. Building peace on earth, we don't believe in the lack of love. peace for peace. To our children, peace for peace. Our forests, peace for peace. And for the courage to transform. Peace for peace, in truth and justice, peace for peace, and in the freedom, peace for peace, and in the beauty of loving you. Peace in the world ends with me. When I choose love inside, I'm truly happy. When we are kind to one another, we know true love, greatness in our heart. The time has come for building peace on earth. We don't believe in the lack of love. Peace for peace. To our children, peace for peace. Our forests, peace for peace. And for the courage to transform. Peace for peace. In truth and justice, peace for peace. And in the freedom, peace for peace. And in the beauty of loving you. Peace for peace, for a new world. Peace for peace, in faith and hope. Peace for peace, and for the courage to transform. Peace for peace, in truth and justice. Peace for peace, and in the freedom. Peace for peace, and in the beauty of loving you. Peace for peace. To our children, peace for peace. For our forests, peace for peace. And for the courage to transform. Peace for peace. In truth and justice, peace for peace. And in the freedom, peace for peace. And in the beauty of loving you.
Yes, friends, and Jailton, this song was actually it was a recording in our event with Haroldo Dutra Dias in 2000 and 2012 in PA, and that very song was sung by Steve Shepard, Marco Magalhães from Canada, and the children from the Spiritist Side of Baltimore. So that's the recording, the very piece, okay? So thank you, friends. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
It was great to have you here. So, friends, tomorrow, we, God willing, will be back for another day on 10 exercises on peacemaking skills. Go make that call. Reconcile today. God bless. Thank you.